What if I told you that America's most dangerous criminal mastermind once worried about making rent? Right now, someone is clocking in for another shift, wondering how bills will get paid this month. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's your neighbor. Statistics show that 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, one emergency away from financial disaster. We pass these people every day: cashiers, drivers, cleaners, faces blurred by routine, invisible in plain sight. Tonight, we're exploring how one of these invisible workers transformed from driving a beat-up taxi worth $3,000 to controlling a criminal empire processing $500 million annually. Federal agents call him untouchable. Criminal organizations across 3 states pay premium rates for his services. Yet 3 years ago, this man counted quarters for gas money. His name appears on no traditional most wanted lists. No mugshots exist in police databases. No fingerprints link him to crime scenes. Diego Ramirez, known in criminal circles as El Cuervo, proves that sometimes society's most overlooked individuals possess capabilities that would terrify us if we truly understood them. But how does an ordinary person cross that line? What pushes someone from following rules to rewriting them entirely? When does survival instinct become criminal genius? For 12 years, Miami streets knew Diego as just another cab driver. Passengers climbed into his Crown Victoria, shared their destinations, paid their fares, and forgot his face before reaching their next block. A ghost behind a steering wheel, navigating between South Beach's glittering excess and neighborhoods where families stretch every dollar. What passengers never realized was that those years cultivated an almost supernatural ability to read human nature. Observing thousands of interactions taught Diego to detect lies within seconds, recognize fear before it showed on faces, and sense when someone carried more money than they should. Skills that seemed harmless became tools for something far more complex. One humid October evening changed everything. A single passenger. A 20-minute ride. A glimpse through an open warehouse door. What Diego witnessed that night would trigger a chain of events leading to one of America's largest unsolved heists. $100 million stolen from an organization that had never been robbed before. Federal investigators spent months searching for an inside man, convinced no outsider could have orchestrated such precision. Meanwhile, their target had already moved beyond theft into something more sophisticated, building an underground financial network that would make him indispensable to criminal organizations nationwide. This story challenges everything we think we know about who becomes a criminal and why. Sometimes monsters aren't born, they're created by circumstances that could happen to anyone. If you're ready to discover how one desperate decision can reshape everything, smash that like button and let's begin. And if you're someone who hears a story like this and walks away without subscribing, maybe ask yourself why you'd ignore a truth that could one day knock on your own door. Miami's streets had shaped Diego Ramirez for over a decade before fate intervened. 12 years of 10-hour shifts, navigating traffic that moved like molasses through August heat, windows down because air conditioning ate too much gas. A 2008 Crown Victoria with 340,000 miles, paint faded to primer in spots, became both office and sanctuary. Passengers saw what they expected: another driver grinding through another day. What they missed was a mind cataloging every detail. Facial expressions revealed more than words. Nervous fidgeting meant outstanding warrants or unpaid debts. Designer clothes paired with discount shoes suggested maxed credit cards. Cologne masking alcohol indicated morning drinking. Years of observation had trained those weathered hands and tired eyes to read stories people tried to hide. Financial pressure creates its own education. When Sophia's leukemia diagnosis arrived, medical bills transformed from abstract numbers into crushing reality. Insurance covered basics, but specialists, experimental treatments, and medications that might save a 7-year-old's life existed in a different economic stratosphere. $5,000 monthly. Sometimes 8. Occasionally 12, when hospital stays stretched longer than expected. Sophia's mother had disappeared 2 years prior, leaving behind only forwarding addresses that led nowhere and phone numbers that rang into silence. Single parenthood meant every decision fell to Diego: which bills to pay, which to delay, which creditors might accept partial payments without shutting off essential services. Morning routines became exercises in creative mathematics. Coffee shops offered free Wi-Fi for job applications that never materialized into interviews. Food banks provided basics, But pride made those visits feel like defeats. A grown man shouldn't need charity to feed his daughter, yet there Diego stood, grateful for canned vegetables and day-old bread. But those same survival instincts that navigated food lines also mapped Miami's hidden geography. 12 years behind a steering wheel revealed patterns invisible to most. Which corners attracted police attention? Which neighborhoods hosted activities that occurred only after midnight? Where money changed hands outside traditional banking systems. Pattern recognition became second nature. Undercover officers possessed subtle tells, 2 new sneakers, radio earpieces barely concealed by long hair, nervous scanning that suggested surveillance training. Drug runners moved with practiced efficiency, checking mirrors constantly, taking routes that made no geographical sense unless avoiding certain intersections mattered more than time. Desperation showed different faces depending on circumstances. Wealthy passengers desperate to reach airports before missed flights threw cash without counting. Gamblers desperate for one more hand at offshore poker games shared too much information during rides to private locations. Business executives desperate to maintain appearances discussed compromising situations with shocking candor, treating drivers like furniture. Each fare added another data point to Diego's expanding map of human weakness. Financial pressure stripped away pretense, revealing what people valued most when forced to choose. Family came first for some. Status mattered more to others. Survival instincts varied dramatically based on upbringing, but everyone possessed breaking points. Society trains us to believe that good people make good choices, that moral character protects against corruption. Yet sitting in hospital waiting rooms, watching other parents receive news no family should hear, Diego began questioning whether circumstances might matter more than character. Anyone can reach that moment when traditional solutions stop working. When rent comes due, medicine runs out, and pride becomes a luxury reserved for people with healthier bank accounts. Tuesday evening humidity hung thick enough to taste when Diego's phone buzzed with a fare request near Port of Miami. Industrial zones rarely generated rides after business hours, but money was money. Sophia's next treatment required another specialist consultation, $400 due Friday. Port security lights cast harsh shadows across empty parking lots as a figure in an expensive suit emerged from behind shipping containers. Alejandro, no last name offered, slid into the back seat with nervous energy that immediately caught Diego's attention. Designer fabric, but hands that shook while fumbling with a phone that wouldn't stop ringing. Spanish conversations erupted in rapid bursts throughout the 20-minute drive toward warehouse districts west of downtown. Alejandro's voice carried urgency that transcended language barriers. Shipment and sunrise appeared repeatedly between longer exchanges Diego couldn't follow completely. Financial terms mixed with geographical references, coordinates, perhaps, or meeting locations. Warehouse districts after dark transformed into different territory. Legitimate businesses closed hours earlier, leaving behind empty parking lots and loading docks that attracted activities requiring privacy. Diego knew these areas from late-night airport runs, but Alejandro's destination felt different. More isolated. More intentional. Cash payment came with unnecessary generosity, $40 for a $28 ride. Alejandro disappeared into a nondescript building before Diego could offer change, leaving behind cologne scent and an atmosphere of barely controlled panic. Curiosity mixed with financial desperation created dangerous combinations. $400 by Friday. Sophia's treatment couldn't wait. Diego parked 3 blocks away and walked back through shadows cast by streetlights that functioned intermittently. Loading dock doors hung partially open, revealing glimpses of activity inside. Industrial lighting illuminated a scene that defied immediate comprehension. Dozens of men moved with practiced efficiency, transferring duffel bags from trucks into shipping containers. Not just bags, hundreds of them, each stuffed tight enough to strain zippers. Stacks upon stacks of currency in denominations that caught warehouse lighting and reflected green abundance beyond anything Diego had witnessed. $20 bills bundled with rubber bands. 50s wrapped in bank paper. Hundreds sorted into neat piles that filled bag after bag after bag. Workers handled millions with casual indifference, suggesting routine rather than excitement. No armed guards supervised operations. No sophisticated security systems protected obvious wealth. Just men loading money like any other cargo, protected apparently by reputation alone. Hermanos del Sol. Diego recognized names and faces from news reports about drug trafficking operations between Colombia and Florida ports. Organizations that operated through fear rather than firepower, assuming their reputation provided sufficient protection against interference. 3 weeks of surveillance followed. Evening shifts became excuses for reconnaissance missions through warehouse districts. Diego mapped schedules, counted workers, identified vulnerabilities that seemed impossible yet increasingly obvious. Tuesday and Friday operations processed $8 to $12 million before dawn shipping to Caribbean destinations. Security gaps emerged through patient observation. Between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., skeleton crews maintained minimal presence. 2 guards playing cards in front offices while money sat unprotected in loading areas. Overconfidence bred carelessness. Who would dare steal from organizations known for violent retribution? Financial pressure transformed observation into planning. Sophia needed treatments. Rent required payment. Electricity couldn't be disconnected again. Traditional employment offered no solutions capable of matching medical expenses that doubled monthly. Rationalization whispered seductive logic. Cartel money funded destruction, drugs, violence, corruption. Taking some wouldn't hurt innocent people. Insurance probably covered such losses. Rich criminals could absorb setbacks that would devastate working families. Moral boundaries eroded gradually, then suddenly. One desperate father facing impossible choices. One organization processing more money weekly than most people earned in lifetimes. One opportunity requiring courage, or foolishness, that Diego possessed in dangerous abundance. Before we reveal how Diego pulled off what federal investigators still call impossible, let me know in comments. Have you ever been in situations where desperation made you consider things you never thought you would? And don't forget to subscribe for more incredible true crime stories. If you think you're immune to choices Diego faced, reconsider. Financial ruin, invisible work, no escape routes. This could be anyone, tomorrow. Subscribe now, before life makes you desperate enough to understand this hard way. Still not subscribed? Either you're in denial, or you're waiting for stories that hit even closer to home. Go ahead, hit comments and explain why you're still holding out. Preparation consumed November evenings like a fever. Diego studied building schematics downloaded from county databases, memorized electrical panel locations through public utility records, and practiced lockpicking techniques learned from YouTube videos watched on library computers. Night vision equipment cost 2 weeks' earnings but seemed essential for navigating warehouse darkness without triggering motion sensors. His Crown Victoria underwent subtle modifications during late-night sessions in a friend's garage. Rear seat compartments hidden beneath upholstery. Trunk space expanded by removing spare tire wells. Suspension reinforced to handle unexpected weight without affecting handling. Nothing obvious enough to attract attention during routine traffic stops, everything designed for one specific purpose. Industrial garbage bags, heavy-duty contractor grade, replaced grocery store versions that might tear under pressure. Work gloves eliminated fingerprint concerns. Dark clothing without reflective elements. A mental checklist refined through dozens of rehearsals in empty parking lots, timing movements until efficiency became instinct. Weather forecasts predicted cloud cover thick enough to obscure moonlight. Friday night operations offered maximum money with minimum security presence. Between 2:15 and 4:30 a.m., warehouse districts became ghost towns where even patrol cars avoided unnecessary visits. Entry through rooftop skylights required athleticism Diego hadn't used since high school, but adrenaline compensated for age and fatigue. Metal framework provided handholds strong enough to support weight. Glass panels lifted silently when treated with patience rather than force. Warehouse interior stretched below like an industrial cavern filled with shadows and opportunity. Night vision transformed darkness into green-tinted clarity. Loading areas held organized wealth that exceeded every expectation. Duffel bags arranged in neat rows, each stuffed with currency sorted by denomination. 20s, 50s, hundreds. Small bills that circulated through legitimate businesses daily, impossible to trace back to specific sources. Movement required dancer-like precision. Security cameras covered obvious approaches but missed angles created by support beams and equipment positioning. Diego navigated between blind spots, counting steps, controlling breathing, becoming invisible within plain sight. Systematic loading followed predetermined patterns. Garbage bags filled with approximately 2 million each, weight manageable for one person, volume small enough for taxi transportation. Focus remained on smaller denominations that wouldn't trigger immediate attention during routine counting. Hundreds looked obvious. 20s and 50s blended into normal circulation. Mathematical precision guided selection. Taking everything would guarantee discovery within hours. Removing specific percentages from different areas might delay detection for days or weeks. Diego calculated roughly 100 million total, but left behind enough to create confusion rather than certainty. Psychological warfare mattered as much as physical theft. Cartel accountants needed to question their own counting before suspecting outside interference. Doubt created hesitation. Hesitation bought time. 2 hours elapsed like compressed seconds. Bags loaded into taxi compartments with surgical efficiency. Rooftop exit accomplished without disturbing skylight positioning. Engine started normally, headlights functioned properly, traffic laws obeyed during the drive home through empty streets. Storage unit rental had occurred 3 months earlier under documentation obtained through identity services Diego preferred not to examine closely. Cash disappeared into climate-controlled darkness while dawn approached Miami's eastern horizon. Apartment return felt surreal. Coffee brewing. Shower running. Normal morning routines proceeding as if everything remained unchanged. Yet $100 million in stolen cartel money now sat 15 minutes away, transforming Diego from struggling father into federal fugitive. Sleep proved impossible despite exhaustion. Every car door slam triggered alert responses. Police sirens, routine throughout urban environments, now carried personal significance. Paranoia fought against rational assessment that discovery remained days or weeks away. Sophia's treatment money was secured. Medical bills would disappear. Rent anxieties could end permanently. Yet success brought new fears that dwarfed previous financial concerns. Cartel retaliation. Federal investigation. Life imprisonment. Death sentences that organizations like Hermanos del Sol delivered outside courtroom procedures. Tuesday morning brought the first signs of response. News reports mentioned increased police presence near port areas. Organized crime task force meetings. Federal agencies coordinating with local departments. Investigation terminology that suggested serious criminal activity requiring significant resources. Diego's name appeared nowhere in early reporting, but patterns were emerging that would eventually point toward systematic theft rather than internal cartel disputes. One desperate decision had rewritten everything, past, present, and whatever future remained possible. This story isn't entertainment. It's a warning. If you're watching and think this couldn't happen in your city, your job, your life, wake up. Subscribe now, or pretend this kind of truth doesn't concern you. Your silence is your choice. Tuesday morning chaos erupted through Hermanos del Sol headquarters when accountants discovered discrepancies that defied explanation. Weekly tallies showed gaps too large for counting errors, too precise for random theft. Leadership assembled emergency meetings while numbers kept changing, not because money was disappearing, but because initial estimates proved wildly inaccurate. Rage-consumed conversations conducted in rapid Spanish mixed with English profanity. Cartel operations had never experienced theft on this scale. Internal security reviews began immediately, followed by interrogations that grew increasingly violent as trust evaporated between longtime associates. Someone had betrayed family principles. Someone would pay. FBI involvement became inevitable when cartel retaliation spilled into public view. Bodies appeared in locations designed to send messages. Legitimate businesses suffered damage during collection attempts. Innocent bystanders witnessed confrontations that required federal intervention. Agent Rebecca Torres inherited a case file that read like organized crime fiction. Seasoned investigators with decades of experience couldn't believe outsiders had penetrated cartel security. Initial focus targeted insider involvement, corrupt accountants, disgruntled soldiers, ambitious lieutenants seeking independence. Traditional investigation methods produced traditional suspects who passed polygraph examinations and provided solid alibis. Surveillance footage from surrounding businesses showed nothing unusual. Traffic cameras captured routine vehicle movement. Financial records revealed no suspicious transactions preceding theft. Every investigative approach led nowhere, creating frustration that compounded daily as pressure mounted from superiors demanding results. Meanwhile, Diego confronted reality that changed everything. $100 million in cash couldn't simply disappear into normal banking systems. Depositing large amounts triggered federal reporting requirements. Spending patterns would attract attention. Hiding money indefinitely meant Sophia's medical needs remained unmet. Criminal transformation occurred gradually, then suddenly. Diego realized theft represented just phase one of a more complex operation. Building independent money laundering networks would provide long-term solutions while creating legitimate income streams through illegitimate services. Recruitment required careful selection. Isabella Vega possessed banking connections developed through 20 years of mortgage fraud. Her expertise in offshore accounts and shell corporations offered pathways traditional criminals couldn't access. Bomber Rodriguez brought military logistics experience and personal security capabilities. Phoenix, real name unknown, specialized in cryptocurrency conversions that left minimal digital footprints. Each partnership began with small demonstrations proving competence and reliability. Diego offered competitive rates for services typically controlled by established organizations. Lower fees attracted clients tired of paying premium prices for substandard security. Success bred reputation. Reputation generated referrals. Operations avoided drug trafficking entirely. Diego's network focused exclusively on financial services, laundering proceeds from various criminal enterprises without direct involvement in underlying activities. Intellectual distance provided psychological comfort while practical distance reduced legal exposure. Geographic expansion occurred naturally as client demands increased. Florida operations supported Georgia connections. Carolina networks requested similar services. Within 6 months, criminal organizations across southeastern United States recognized El Cuervo's network as superior alternative to traditional laundering methods. Agent Torres began noticing patterns emerging across multiple jurisdictions. Similar technological signatures appeared in financial crimes throughout different states. Investigation coordination revealed sophisticated operations bearing identical characteristics, encryption methods, communication protocols, timing sequences that suggested central coordination. Breakthrough arrived when arrested money courier mentioned mysterious figure called El Cuervo during plea bargain negotiations. Behavioral analysis unit developed criminal profiles suggesting highly intelligent suspect with intimate knowledge of law enforcement techniques. Military or police background seemed likely. Advanced education probable. Personal motivation beyond simple greed. Traditional surveillance methods proved ineffective against someone who anticipated federal responses. Informant networks encountered dead ends because El Cuervo's organization maintained strict compartmentalization. Electronic intercepts captured encrypted communications that resisted standard decryption attempts. Torres realized her team was hunting someone who understood their investigation playbook better than rookie agents understood basic procedures. Every tactical approach seemed anticipated. Every technological advantage got neutralized by countermeasures. Traditional criminal organizations relied on violence and intimidation. El Cuervo's network operated through intelligence and innovation. Client testimonials, gathered through confidential sources, described services that exceeded expectations while maintaining perfect operational security. Competitive pricing combined with superior results attracted criminal enterprises willing to switch loyalty from established relationships. Market forces were reshaping underground economies in ways federal agencies couldn't predict or prevent. Criminal success created exponential growth opportunities. Initial theft of $100 million had generated operational capital supporting business ventures worth hundreds of millions annually. Diego's transformation from struggling father to criminal mastermind proved that financial pressure could reshape anyone given sufficient desperation and opportunity. Yet success brought consequences that dwarfed original problems. Medical bills had disappeared, but federal investigations threatened lifetime imprisonment. Sophia's future was financially secure, but Diego's presence in her life became increasingly dangerous. Every decision created new problems requiring more complex solutions. Still not subscribed? Then say it out loud in comments. Why? You like these stories, you keep watching, but won't click one button? If you're not part of this channel, you're just passing through other people's lives without learning anything. 1 year after that moonless November night, Diego Ramirez had evolved into something federal agencies struggled to categorize. Traditional kingpins operated through territory and violence. El Cuervo controlled networks through invisibility and intelligence. No physical headquarters existed. No organizational charts mapped relationships. No traditional power structures applied to operations that functioned like distributed technology rather than centralized crime. Communication occurred exclusively through encrypted channels that rotated daily. Clients never met Diego face-to-face. Business relationships developed through proven performance rather than personal intimidation. Criminal organizations from Miami to Charlotte recognized El Cuervo's services as essential infrastructure supporting their operations. Monthly revenue streams exceeded anything Diego had imagined during those desperate weeks calculating Sophia's medical expenses. Conservative estimates suggested 8 to 12 million processed through his network every 30 days. Peak months reached 15 to 20 million when major clients required urgent services. Money that once represented impossible dreams now flowed like routine business transactions. Physical transformation accompanied financial success. Designer clothing replaced thrift store purchases. Luxury vehicles rotated through carefully maintained fleet. Upscale neighborhoods provided security and anonymity that working-class areas couldn't offer. Yet Diego maintained psychological distance from material excess, understanding that conspicuous consumption attracted unwanted attention. Meanwhile, Hermanos del Sol Cartel faced systematic dismantling as federal pressure intensified following their violent response to the original theft. High-profile arrests removed experienced leadership. Asset seizures disrupted established operations. Internal paranoia destroyed trust networks that had required decades to develop. Power vacuums created opportunities that Diego's organization filled with surgical precision. Client relationships transferred seamlessly as traditional providers disappeared into federal custody. Market demand remained constant while supply sources shifted toward networks offering superior security and competitive pricing. Criminal ecosystem dynamics resembled legitimate business principles. Client service mattered. Reputation generated referrals. Operational excellence commanded premium pricing. Diego's network succeeded because it treated money laundering as professional service industry rather than crude criminal enterprise. Geographic expansion followed client demands across state boundaries. What began as Florida-focused operation now supported criminal activities throughout southeastern United States. Federal agencies recognized El Cuervo's influence across multiple jurisdictions but couldn't locate operational centers or identify key personnel. Essential infrastructure emerged as Diego's greatest strategic advantage. Criminal organizations required reliable laundering services regardless of leadership changes or territorial disputes. Violence disrupted temporary arrangements. Intelligence created permanent relationships. Becoming indispensable meant achieving protection that no amount of firepower could provide. Agent Torres continued leading federal task force dedicated to El Cuervo's capture, but traditional investigation methods proved inadequate against someone who operated like technological ghost rather than conventional criminal. 3 years of intensive investigation had produced extensive documentation of criminal activities without identifying specific individuals responsible for coordinating those activities. Financial intelligence suggested annual processing volumes exceeding $500 million through networks serving clients ranging from drug trafficking organizations to arms dealers to corrupt political figures. Yet El Cuervo remained phantom presence, known through results rather than evidence, feared through reputation rather than violence. Personal transformation seemed complete. That taxi driver who worried about rent payments now controlled criminal enterprises worth hundreds of millions. Medical bills that once threatened family stability became rounding errors in monthly operational budgets. Sophia's treatments proceeded without financial constraints, though Diego's involvement in her life required increasingly careful management. Irony permeated every aspect of transformation. Society's invisible workers possessed capabilities that successful criminals never developed. Desperation motivated innovation that comfort never inspired. Financial pressure created criminal genius that prosperity couldn't maintain. Current federal estimates suggest El Cuervo's organization processes criminal proceeds equivalent to Fortune 500 company revenues. Client testimonials describe services that exceed expectations while maintaining operational security that federal agencies cannot penetrate. Success breeds success in legitimate business. Criminal enterprises follow identical principles. What's incredible is how Diego went from invisible to invaluable in criminal underworld. If this story is blowing your mind, make sure to share it with someone who loves true crime stories like this. And hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest cases. Diego's transformation reveals uncomfortable truths about how ordinary people cross extraordinary lines. Financial desperation doesn't just pressure decision-making, it rewrites moral frameworks entirely. When traditional solutions fail, survival instincts override ethical training. Society teaches us that good people make good choices, but Diego proves that circumstances matter more than character. Criminal activity expands like compound interest. Initial theft funded network development. Network success attracted larger clients. Larger clients demanded expanded services. Each step seemed logical individually, yet collectively they created criminal empire that dwarfed original intentions. Diego sought money for medical bills. 3 years later, he controlled operations processing $500 million annually. Society's invisible workers possess capabilities that would terrify us if recognized properly. 12 years observing human behavior from taxi driver's seat created expertise in reading desperation, detecting deception, and mapping vulnerability. Skills developed through legitimate employment became tools for illegitimate enterprises. We overlook people until they demand attention through methods we never anticipated. Single decisions reshape entire life trajectories. One warehouse glimpse. One desperate choice. $100 million stolen. Everything that followed, criminal networks, federal investigations, permanent separation from normal life, stemmed from 20 minutes of criminal activity on moonless November night. No such thing exists as temporary crime. Actions create consequences that extend far beyond original intentions. Power achieved through criminal means creates isolation that legitimate success rarely produces. Diego gained financial security while losing personal relationships. Sophia's medical needs were met, but Diego's presence in her life became increasingly dangerous. Wealth accumulated while family connections deteriorated. Criminal success traded present problems for permanent ones. Economic inequality creates conditions where desperate people consider desperate solutions. When medical bills exceed annual income, when rent threatens family stability, when legitimate employment offers no path toward solving life-threatening problems, illegal alternatives gain appeal. Diego's story illustrates how societal failures create individual criminals. Lines between victim and perpetrator blur when examined closely. Diego victimized cartel operations, but cartels victimized entire communities through drug trafficking. Federal investigation targeted Diego while ignoring systemic inequalities that motivated his choices. Justice systems punish symptoms while ignoring root causes. Agent Torres represents institutional persistence that eventually catches most criminals. Yet 3 years of intensive investigation haven't produced arrests, suggesting that intelligence occasionally outmatches resources. Diego escaped consequences so far, but escape requires permanent vigilance that resembles imprisonment. Sophia embodies real cost of criminal choices. Her medical needs were met, but father's criminal activities created dangers that dwarf previous financial concerns. Money secured her treatments while threatening her safety. Diego solved immediate problems while creating permanent ones that may destroy everything he sought to protect. Diego's story shows us that sometimes most dangerous criminals are those who were never meant to be criminals at all. What do you think? Was Diego victim of circumstances, or did he make choice that revealed his true nature? Let me know in comments below. And if you want to explore more incredible true crime stories that will challenge how you see our world, subscribe to True Crime Case Notes and join our community of truth seekers. Or don't subscribe. But when next story drops, and it rattles you, don't pretend you weren't warned. Hit that button now, or go to comments and tell us why you'd rather stay in darkness.